Story 1. I recently sprained my ankle very badly. I couldn't walk for a couple of days. I could just about manage to hobble to the bathroom, but I was panting when I got back to the couch to put my foot up. I knew in my head how glad I was for my mobility, but I had never really felt it before. I have a new appreciation for my freedom of movement. Story 2. Not too long ago, my dad was diagnosed with cancer with no symptoms and was only given 9 months to live. Story 3. Losing someone unexpectedly really hit me how fragile everything is and made me rethink what actually matters. Story 4. The passing of my parents to cancer. Some context. They always looked way younger than they were and were relatively healthy throughout their lives. It made me take a closer look around and appreciate the things in my life that can be gone in an instant, including myself. Story 5. Before COVID, I was conservative and just a bit edgy and annoying. But then I saw conservatives violently reject things that would help them just because it would also help a person or group of people they don't like. Their hatred for others outweighs their needs. It was disheartening. I think conservatives no longer see their opposition as human beings. Immigrants, regardless of status, are viewed as a lesser species than they are, simply because of the location where they were born. Story 6. Watching a group of closet racists and homophobes come out of the woodwork in real time en masse. You think you know some people. Story 7. It depends on your definition of recent, but I would say seeing my fellow humans' reaction to COVID changed how I see my neighbor. We were told, hey, take this thing for free and just stay home and you'll save thousands of lives. And I watched so many simply say, no, and refuse. It made me think of World War II when, pre-internet and common television, people were asked to drop everything and go thousands of miles away to a place they could hardly conceive of to fight, work, suffer, and die to save thousands of lives, and many gladly did it out of a sense of duty. Here, folks were asked to get takeout and take a free vaccine and refused. It really changed me. Story 8. I had a dog sever my 5th finger about a year ago. I was able to get it reattached, but I flinch whenever I am near dogs now and have no desire to ever pet one again. Story 9. Family members who told me to my face they learned their lesson and still turned around to vote for and cheer on Donald Trump. I am starting to believe that right-wing Christians are unsalvageable. They have no concept of penance and have no problems lying or being evil in the name of God. Story 10. Sometimes I have felt like the last few years have been exceptionally crazy and scary when it comes to world events, as if we live in unprecedented times. But a few months ago, I visited a photography exhibition called Newsflash, featuring thousands of news photos from the last 100 years, divided by decade. What I realized when walking through the decades was that the world has always been crazy, with lots of unusual and frightening events happening every decade. It is not just now. This fundamentally changed my view of history and the times we currently live in. Story 11. For me, it is the advent of genetically related treatments for different conditions and how this could impact conditions and diseases previously thought to be incurable. Story 12. I got into the Rock Band games last year, and they helped me realize that I am transgender. They definitely changed my perception of my life. Elon Musk's salute changed my perception of politics, people, and the United States in general. It was the angriest I have ever been and probably ever will be, and it felt like a spit in the face to every ideal this country has ever claimed to stand for. I disliked Donald Trump and Elon Musk before that, but that act made anyone and everyone supporting the two enemies in my eyes. Story 13. Becoming a parent. Perceptions change daily in this new arena. I hear it is the norm, but what a wild existential ride. Story 14. That the richest man in the world is now running the most powerful country in the world. The oligarchy has come full circle and they no longer hide their power or intentions. Story 15. Chatting with Palestinians on the ground in Gaza has changed my perspective and enhanced my appreciation of the little things. Story 16. Someone commented about catching up with a childhood friend who eventually died before they could meet. The person seemed troubled about it. She deleted her comment while I was replying. I don't know if that person is going to see it, but I will reply anyway. Here we go. I'm so sorry. Don't punish yourself. Easier said than done, I know, but that's the right path to take. Her mom said he talked about you, kind of meaning he cared about you and probably understood that, everybody is on the run. Genuine feelings are patient, cozy, and always welcoming. If it was the other way around, wouldn't you rattle the whole world to ensure he wouldn't feel any guilt due to his attempt to deal with his demands in life, causing a delay between you two? It was supposed to be a delay, but the harshness of life got in the way. Not your fault. I hope you feel better. My best friend took his life a couple of weeks after we lost contact. I was the one avoiding the messages. I was in a really bad place, couldn't reach out, but he had it worse. I'm still trying to forgive myself. That's why I felt this urge to reply to your comment. This guilt is not fair. Not fair to us or to our friends. But if there's a bright side, I think the mere existence of this feeling of guilt kind of reassures that there is this genuine feeling, whether it be love or some deep connection. Like a confirmation. Could hurt less, not gonna lie, but there is some beauty underneath it. Story 17. The recent rise of fascism all over Europe and now the United States has led me, at 32, to seriously wonder if I have been overestimating my fellow humans. There are people who do not care about the suffering of others, not one bit, and that blows my mind. Story 18. A while ago, my mother told me she was sexually assaulted in the past, and she saw the guy who did it at the store one day. I didn't really know what to say to her besides that it was terrible something like that happened to her. I was able to talk to her about it more, and she told me she knows the guy's name. I asked her why she never got anyone to go after him, why she didn't try to press charges or anything. She said she told my grandfather when it happened, and he more or less lectured her about not being in that kind of situation to begin with. I asked if she told her husband. He is someone she knew when she was younger, and she never answered. A lot of thoughts went through my mind, including whether or not the guy she saw was actually him. Maybe it wasn't, which would be messed up in its own way because it would highlight the effects that kind of thing can have on someone's mind. It was crazy knowing she moved back to the place where it happened and got married. That had to have taken strength. It was also shocking to hear that her own father gave her one of those responses that you wouldn't think a father would give in real life when he learns about that. My grandfather is a large guy, so I wondered why he didn't at least go talk to the guy who did it. The whole conversation made me lose a lot of respect for my family and the community I grew up in. It also made me wonder what could be going on with her that made her bring that up in a conversation with me. Story 19. Today is my birthday, and I have realized how lucky I am to have made it this far. I had some health problems a few years ago that nearly killed me. Story 20. My dad passed away from pulmonary fibrosis and in his last months was wheelchair and bedbound. Firstly, it made me realize how many places are not wheelchair-friendly, even when they claim to be. Story 21. Watching my government try to undermine Ukraine in order to acquire rare earth mineral rights and fall for Russian propaganda. Story 22. I don't want to get into it, but last April my dad was in the hospital again for his pancreas acting up on him. This started a huge chain of events that, long story short, ended with my parents separating, my dad moving into his own apartment, and my sister and me balancing between home and his place. This experience has helped me understand that I shouldn't take things for granted. It has also led me to plan my days off more strategically, deciding whether to stay home and do things there or go to my dad's apartment, which is much closer to town so I can watch movies or go to work, etc. Story 23. I woke up with excruciating back pain and could barely walk for the first 3 days. It hurt to cough, laugh, and breathe. It scared me and made me realize how much I took my health for granted. It has been 2 months now, and I am still not fully healed. Story 24. Taking care of my mom and honoring her wishes to stay in her apartment while watching her very slow decline. She started to say, "You're the mom now and I'm the child." She lived to 101 years. It was the hardest but also the most emotionally rewarding experience. I miss her tremendously, but I feel so satisfied with the whole situation. Story 25. Israel's genocide and oppression of Palestine in 2023. I first heard talk about Palestine and Israel and wanted to understand. I researched and learned about what Israel has done to Palestinians since 1948 and was shocked. But what hit me was seeing parents holding their dead children, the footage of the Israeli Defense Forces murdering innocent people, and the words Israel used to describe Palestinians as if they were animals. They want Palestinians to burn alive. I found that Zionism is similar to Nazism, but I now do not trust mainstream media because in Western countries it is often Israeli propaganda. I even became an activist to inform people who do not understand what is actually happening. It has had a huge influence on me, which I never thought it would. I also try to tell people that being anti-Israel is not the same as being anti-Semitic. I love people of any religion, but I do not support a country that is subjecting people to genocide. I will continue to show my support for Palestine. Story 26. My life changed in October when, for the first time, I heard Baby Metal. I haven't looked at life the same since. Story 27. The pandemic has changed everything for me. I have lost my patience with people. I have witnessed the worst, and that is enough. I cannot engage with others anymore. I can no longer trust anyone. Story 28. Multiple generations of people who claim to understand that the Holocaust and Jim Crow were wrong are literally supporting the exact same types of beliefs and actions right now. Story 29. Every decision I made when I turned 18 has had a serious consequence on my life. Every action will have a consequence, no matter how big or small. Story 30. Being sexually assaulted and harassed at my workplace last year has made me feel so uncomfortable and scared that I am struggling to even be near men on public transport, airplanes, etc., where I freak out if I am not on the aisle for an easy escape. Story 31. Probably realizing how fragile life is after an accident scare. There are no guarantees about tomorrow. It makes you appreciate the small things. Story 32. After being betrayed by my own family, I came to realize that life is not how I used to think. You should be your first priority. Story 33. Losing a close friend unexpectedly really made me realize how fragile everything is and how much time we waste worrying about things that do not matter. Story 34. Trump siding with Putin. Up until that point, I thought that the United States was a solid ally to the European Union. It has made me appreciate the randomness of everything. What if Trump had launched a more successful television career? What if Hitler had been a more appreciated artist? History has suddenly transformed from something that happened long ago to something that is happening right now. Instead of a book of olden times, it is now a reality that we are all living. Is this how Rome started to fall apart? Story 35. I started to feel unwell without any reason. I discovered, with help and therapy, that the way my mother used to discipline me when I was a child actually hurt me mentally. Now, my life feels like a lie. Story 36. Before COVID, I thought people cared about me. Family. I have several serious diseases, including autoimmune diseases. Apparently, they love their convenience more than they love me. It was very eye-opening. They could not take simple measures to ensure my safety. I mean, basic things like hand washing. We moved last year, and I basically backed away from all of them and stopped letting their needs rule our lives after they showed such little concern for mine. Story 37. I hit the ground really hard. I don't really remember what happened, but I broke my jaw and wrist. I had big cages and wires all around my jaw and could only eat through a straw for weeks. I am very grateful for medical treatment today. Story 38. Having turned 19 and understanding that for everything I want to achieve in life, I am going to have to move a lot and make an effort. I realize that no one is going to come and resolve my life for me. It is simply time to encourage myself to do things for myself since parents help you up to a certain age. When you are older, everything changes. Story 39. My sister turning to religion because of TikTok and hating me really made me realize how horrible everything else is now that I can't talk to my sister. Story 40. 2018 in Brazil. Loved ones who spent their whole lives teaching me about respect and empathy for others saw a guy say, "I am in favor of torture," and not only still voted for him but liked him. I had a really tough time feeling completely detached from my family and feeling like all these people I loved were not what I thought. I underwent psychiatric treatment for a couple of years to help me learn how to deal with it. I am okay now, but this paradigm shift still makes me sad. I was a happier person before. Story 41. I have severe attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I always feel like I am in a mess, but just because I think I should do this doesn't mean it actually happens. I put it on my to-do list on Wednesday to tidy up, to pick up at least 3 things, and put them in their place. But when I looked around for things to put away, I realized that everything is where it is supposed to be. It's not an organized mess. It is messily organized. So what if I hang my jackets on my bedpost instead of in the closet? Who cares if the tissue box has moved from the original spot I placed it? What does it matter that not everything is tucked away and neat? It's not a mess. It is organized, it just doesn't look pretty. Story 42. Not an event really, but I am going through a separation from my husband. He betrayed me many years ago. I chose to forgive and carry on with him. We created a beautiful life with our 2 children. I realized over time that I could not give him all of me again. I tried. The feeling just got worse instead. Looking back, I should have left then. He broke me and he tried to put me back together, but it just never worked. I do not regret the years we had together, but yes, betrayal is significant for both the betrayed and the betrayer. Story 43. I lost my dad and uncle, who was his brother, within a few months of each other recently. That was a real eye-opener. Story 44. Recently, my laptop was stolen while I was abroad. I felt devastated because all my work and memories were on it. But then, a group of locals who did not speak much English went out of their way to help me contact the police and find temporary solutions. It completely shifted how I see people. Now, I am more trusting and make an effort to help others without expecting anything in return. Story 45. Realizing I shouldn't have blamed myself for everything, as the one person I always cared about and loved did. I am slowly learning to love myself and be the person I want to be. I have failed. I have failed a lot in life and was always told, even from a young age, that I need to do better. I fell in love with someone who said the same thing to me. I still love this person with all my heart, and I know that they are happier without me, which was all I cared about. Now I am learning to care for myself and feel like I have done better. It's not easy. I am tired, really tired, but I am going to keep on keeping on. The point is, when I failed, I didn't really fail. I was learning. Story 46. Oh man, this one is a no-brainer. Well, a one-baller, As you might have guessed from my horrible one-liner, I had to go through 4 rounds of chemotherapy for testicular cancer at barely 20 years old. I had never felt such simultaneous appreciation for human life as spine-tingling fear for my own, and I guess I haven't so far. See, I was at my absolute lowest, and while I didn't make any attempts, I often wondered if anyone would be any different, let alone bat an eye if I was gone. I had been locking horns with myself and was only now beginning to realize that my existentialist tendencies had borne some kind of fruit. In what could have been my final moments, I finally made peace with myself and the ever-changing world around me. With unwavering support from my family and friends, I somehow cheated death and pulled through yet again, just like I have so many times in the past. By no means, though, do I ever consider myself unkillable or immortal, because Old Scratch will come to my doorstep for good someday. But to paraphrase the one and only Lin-Manuel Miranda, I can't seem to die. Not even when literal certain death seems to find me. I'm living proof, I guess, that miracles do happen, as long as you keep wanting them to. Story 47. My friend Hiko was mountain biking, and he did a backflip and broke his back. He is in the hospital, and he may not walk again. It makes you realize that everything has a risk involved with it, but sometimes the risk is greater than others. My English is very bad. I am still learning. Story 48. I am a high school student. Last week, I went cold turkey off social media after 3 years of constant 6-hour daily usage. A couple of days later, I went on a trip to guide some foreign exchange students from Japan around the city. It was about an hour's ride back to my suburb, and all the seats were occupied. When I looked around, an old woman, aged approximately 60 to 70 years, moved to the end of her seat and offered me some space. After a couple of minutes, she started a conversation with me, and we spoke for about 30 to 40 minutes until she had to get off at her stop. She initiated the conversation because she saw my school uniform and asked what excursion I was on. People could very much use the context of what is happening around them to create some very good interactions. However, social media has created this norm where talking to people you do not know online is far more common than talking to the person next to you on a train. I am aware that social media allows you to find your own inner communities and, for some people, fan bases to discuss common interests. However, this woman and I had no common interests, and yet that was one of the most interesting conversations I have ever had, and it was with a stranger whose name I never learned. This really changed my perspective on how human beings interact with each other. Story 49. Got in a bad fight at work. First time it has ever happened, with a loose cannon coworker. It finally hit me like a train that I am an adult, and that adults cannot hit each other or else they will go to jail regardless of the situation. This made me think about why humans were so violent in the past before discovering healthy coping mechanisms. Story 50. This one sentence by Carl Sagan: "We are one way the universe can think about itself. I am small, but I am the universe." Story 51. The war in Ukraine affected my life in many ways, but the real switch came when I was sitting in my bathroom listening to explosions that had become fairly ordinary and mundane, a mild adrenaline rush. But when you hear the sound of a missile getting closer and closer, you start to wonder how close it really is and if this is going to be the explosion that you don't hear. Those were the longest seconds of my life, and it flipped something in my brain. Life is very different now. Story 52. I dated and slept with someone for the first time in 11 years back in late 2023. I was awakened to human connection, physical intimacy, emotional intimacy, caring about someone deeply, and the closeness to someone. Story 53. Any possibility of believing in Christianity was eliminated while growing up and witnessing how children are treated. Story 54. Moving to Middle Tennessee in 2023 and realizing that the Ku Klux Klan is alive and well. Previously, I believed that racists and bigots were a small percentage of humanity, but now I am realizing I have been living in a minefield, and I stand to lose a leg at any given moment. Story 55. I grew up in a cult and did not know it. Suddenly, I had a crisis of faith, and my entire world came crashing down. I cannot even begin to describe how confusing and painful the process of waking up is. Story 56. Apparently the election. All I see on Reddit now is political posts about Donald Trump. Sheesh, talk about something else. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.